Well, how can you save 50 grams off of your package? That's you and your bike together. Or maybe you've worked on yourself and you got your weight down and that's about it. You don't want to go any less than what you've got currently. So you think, what about 50 grams off my bike? How can you take 50 grams off? Well, there's probably 1,000,001 ways of doing it. And for a start, you don't need your toolkit, do you? No, you don't need a toolkit. Ditch that, someone else has got an Allen key set on them. What about your water bottle? It's a short ride, and it's a hard ride, but I can do without any fluid. Okay, what else can you minimise? Well, there's still 1,000,001 ways. TPU tubes, lighter tyres, lighter wheels, invest another 6 grand into ultralight wheels. Go ultralight this, ultralight that. What else can you do? You've exhausted your options. How can you lose another 50 grams? Well, in this package is a component, or actually 2 parts, that will take 50 grams off your bike no matter what. So let's have a look. The packaging is a nicely presented cardboard tube, and no prizes for guessing that the contents are through axles, also wrapped in a biodegradable thick paper meshing for protection. So, carbon fibre through axles, still interested? Well, let's see if they live up to our expectations. And what weight are these axles? 35 grams a pair. Oops, it's gone down a gram. Maybe I inhaled at the same time. As with all super duper ultralight weight weenie type components, you can only go so far in weight reduction before you start compromising their integrity, and that can mean compromising the safety aspect of components, or you. So what do our through axles actually do? What's their function? Well, here's a rear wheel, and they sit inside our hollow axle, don't they, of our hub. One side presses against the frame, while the other one has a thread which threads into the frame, and then it holds your wheel steady there. The front wheel just goes around basically. The torsional forces are when you're turning corners and bumps and things like that. With your rear wheel, you've got your power going through the rear hub as well. You've got more torsional stress. The other force on our rear and front hub is from our brake rotors. So we put on our brakes and we put a reverse twisting force on our hub set, don't we? So there's torsional stress to deal with a little bit, but most of that is taken up by the through axle of the hub itself, which is very, very tough. Usually it's heat treated aluminium. So our through axle really is quite protected inside that hard hollow hub axle. So is it okay to have these super duper light? Let's have a look at the construction of these carbon through axles. A normal through axle, being hard aluminium, is usually machined as one piece. So from the head through to the body, through to the thread, is all one piece aluminium. So it's very, very strong. Whereas this carbon through axle has a carbon rod in the middle and aluminium pieces on the end. And how do they join the carbon rod in the middle to the aluminium pieces on the end? So these through axles have aluminium or aluminum ends with a carbon fibre tube in the middle. This carbon tube is glued, then pressed, and finally pinned into these ends. Looking into either of these ends, you can see that the carbon rod protrudes about 3/4 the way into these ends. This should give enough surface contact area of the carbon rod to the alloy ends for a good solid joint. It was only a couple of decades ago, joining carbon to aluminium wasn't that durable. Some of you may remember Vitus and Allen frames often coming apart at their joints, especially around the bottom bracket area. However, since then, glues have become more advanced, as well as joining tolerances and techniques. These through axles are also pinned at 180 degrees from each other, so the pins are separate, not just one pin going all the way through. How effective these joins are will be the major determining factor to the axle's overall durability. Now you have to order these through axles individually according to the frame set that you have. So for instance, different length axles, there's different diameter of the ends of the axle, there's different thread pitch, there's different thread length as well. so you need to usually quote exactly what you want. This ordering process will apply to any third-party axles that you order for your bike, including of course carbon and titanium types. Firstly, select the type of washer that your frame dropouts require. Some dropouts require flat washers and some conical. Second, measure your individual rear and front axle lengths. Thirdly, make sure you order the correct thread pitch. It will be either 1mm, 1.25, 1.5 or 1.75mm. And fourthly, measure that thread length. If you're not sure about taking these measurements, you can always see them printed on the axle that you already have. You can take a photo of this and send that to the seller. Some sellers, like Bike Kits, will already have the measurements for popular frame brands and models to help you out. For me, I ordered these through axles for the 2018 model Canyon Air Road, so let's fit them. All through axles should have some sort of lubricant on their thread. The seller for these carbon fibre axles has this in their instructions to lubricate the thread before installation. So I'm just doing a pre-fit axle alone just to make sure everything's right, the right length, the right thread pitch, everything's fine. Yep, that looks good. Firstly, let's remove the original aluminium axle from the Canyon bike here, and we'll see how much torque it requires to do that. Watch the numbers carefully because the maximum torque occurs really quickly. Did you catch that? 16 Newton meters. So this original aluminium through axle was tightened to a tension of 16 Newton meters. Now let's put in these carbon through axles. So tightening up to 5 Newton meters, that feels very, very light compared to the 16 Newton meters required to take the original axle off. So I'd rather tighten this to at least 14 Newton meters. And the only way to do that is to tighten it from the other side as they specify in their instructions, which is fair enough, except this Canyon has a cap. Like a lot of the modern bikes coming out with through axles, they've got a blind end on the opposite side, on the thread side. So this older Canyon actually has a cap. So that means if I'm out and I get a puncture, I first of all have to take the cap off with an Allen key, then I have to get 2 Allen keys, one this side and one this side, to take the through axle off, fix the puncture and then do the reverse to put it all back on again. So a bit awkward with having the blind ends, especially those where it doesn't have a cap, it's completely blind because that's the way the frame's made. Then you can't actually use these sorts of axles. The tension, the torque is not enough to keep the wheel in place properly. Now it's even worse with the front one. I just realised that this cap on here is glued in, so actually you have to push it a fair bit to get it out. So I'd have to glue this cap back on again, and if I want to take my wheel off, I've got to somehow get that cap off. If it's glued on, I don't know how I'm going to get it off, because you can't push it out from that way. Oh yes, you probably could put a small rod through the centre of the cub. It all gets a bit complicated, doesn't it? It looks terrible like that. Much better with the cap on. Probably better not to use these axles on this particular frame set. Maybe not on any blind-ended frame set actually. Well, it just so happens I do have a frame set where these carbon through axles will fit. Same thread pitch, same length and everything, and without blind ends on the frame. Okay, so now with this frame set, we've got access to both sides of the through axle with our Allen keys. On the web page for these through axles, there's a video showing you how to install these axles. And it says on the head side, tighten with an Allen key 5 Newton meters, and then go on the thread side and finally tighten it 7 to 9. And that's all very well, 7 to 9 Newton meters maximum. However, if you Google the ideal torque for a through axle, it says anywhere between 15 and 20 Newton meters. Now I've been getting away with, as you saw, 14 Newton meters for probably about 15 years and never had a problem. So 14 Newton meters I can recommend. However, 7 to 9, ooh, that's still not in the ball game, is it? One thing's for sure is you can't just use one Allen key, put it on the head side and tighten it up till it feels around about right, 12 to 14 Newton meters, because you're going to end up breaking the axle probably. Let's consider the main forces that are exerted on our through axles, and will a carbon fibre axle stand up to it? Tensile force, like pulling on the ends. Carbon fibre is extremely strong in this direction, However, we don't really exert a tensile force on our through axles, so this isn't an issue. Compressive force. This occurs when we tighten our through axles into the frame. However, we'll be safe in this area as carbon fibre is significantly stronger than steel and aluminium. The 3-point bend test. We won't be exerting a central point of force on our through axles, so again, we'll be safe here. And finally, torsional stress, a twisting action. This occurs when we tighten our through axle from one side only. The thread end bites into the dropout and presents more friction than the head side of the through axle, thus twisting the through axle. In a torsion test, carbon fibre is significantly weaker than steel and aluminium. So this is where we need to treat our carbon fibre axles with more care when we tighten them. We should tighten them from both sides to minimise this torsional stress. If we don't, this can happen. Now I do have a bit of a theory. What if you could tighten your axle with 2 Allen keys, one each side, both at the same time? So if you put through, say, 7 Newton meters on this side and 7 Newton meters on that side, does that add up to 14 Newton meters? Now I'm not an engineer of any sort, but I think that if you could put 7 and 7 together, that would make 14 Newton meters altogether. So even tension on both sides, 7 Newton meters, and then you're done. That should be 14. Would that work? I'm not sure. I'd say if you're moving the Allen keys relatively evenly, not moving one significantly more than the other, then it's not going to be twisting the axle, not twisting the carbon fibre joint between the aluminium and the carbon fibre. The other problem is, do you know what 7 Newton meters feels like? If you don't, you're going to have to use a torque wrench. Not only that, you're going to have to use 2 torque wrenches if you want your 14 Newton meters, aren't you? So a torque wrench each side. That's getting a bit ridiculous. Not everyone is going to be riding out, oh, I've got a puncture, I need to take my wheel off and put it back on again. Oh, I've got 2 torque wrenches with me. No, that's not going to be a possibility, is it? So probably you're going to need to have a feel for what 7 Newton meters or thereabouts feels like to do these axles up both sides safely. While you're riding, the greatest amount of stress on your through axle is actually going to be at the ends, close to the dropouts. So here and here. And on this carbon through axle, it's aluminium ends. So the carbon rod in the middle doesn't take much stress at all. If for any reason your through axle comes loose, then your front wheel is just going to be floating on top of the axle. And again, most of that stress is going to be on the sides where the aluminium is. So what would happen in practicality? You're riding a bike and let's say the through axle failed, either at one or both of the pin and glued joints or somewhere along the carbon fibre axle itself, the rod, and that failed due to torsional stress. First of all, as you're riding along, you're going to hear your brake rubbing on your brake pads. Second thing you'll notice is the front wheel will be wobbly in your forks here. You'll either feel it when you're riding along or you'll see it. If you observe any of those indications, it will be good to stop riding a bike until you can replace that front axle with a sound one. In the meantime, I've got a fairly good idea of what 7 Newton meters feels like. So I'm going to tighten these axles, 7 Newton meters each side, 14, front and back, and see how we go. I'll take the bike for a couple of rides and I'll report back to you. If I have to finish this video from hospital, you know, it wasn't good enough, the wheel fell off. This morning on the old Trifox again, second ride. Makes me feel a bit behind the 8 ball this morning because some of these guys have got more modern bikes than what I'm riding now. Mechanical old Tegra, old frame. Some of these guys have got integrated cables. Oh, there's one. Integrated cables. Made it to the top of the hill. The others are still coming. I've been up here so many times. No KOM today. In fact, I think recently I did faster anyway, 99% sure. You can't tell because of different conditions. Today's a bit overcast, a bit wet on the road. It all depends on what you ate the day before, whether you got tailwind, headwind, how you feel. Oh my god, there's so many variations. I don't think 50 grams less on the through axles is going to make much difference. Here they come. They all look very much about as exhausted as I am, so that's good. Yep, made it. There you go. Didn't break any through axles today.
No,
Despite the rough roads, potholes and steep gutters we got here in South Australia. So I like the dome shape, the end, the head on the through axle. It's sort of roundish dome shape, which is nice, rather than a square shape. So sort of a nice aero looking. Not only will your bike be lighter than 50 grams, but your wallet will be lighter. So $138 US for a pair. The other thing is, it's not exactly the sort of thing that you're going to be showing off, is it? It's a hidden part. All you see is the head on the frame, so it looks like every other through axle. So it's not as if your fellow riders are going to be goggling over your nice through axles, carbon fibre through axles or anything. So it's a part that's sort of invisible. Is it faster? Is it faster?
How much?
How much? Yeah, like 0.1 watt.
Faster downhill.
Yeah, it'll actually probably be slower downhill because there's less weight. That's right, slower downhill. Faster uphill, slower downhill. 50 grams less weight. One thing I'm concerned about is the fact that it's got parts, you have to glue it and pin it, whereas you can get full carbon fibre through axles that are straight through, over fast. It's cappuccino. So, and titanium axles, you get a one-piece titanium axle, and they're as light, just as light, or even lighter, but they're expensive. I think they're more expensive. So overall, really, it's not really the sort of thing you would use on your daily bike. It's a specialty thing. So if you've got a special event, like a hill climbing competition or something, then put it in. Definitely use them. Otherwise, I wouldn't be. Once I've finished with these and the review, I'll take them out. Might ride them for a few more rides, and then I'll just go back to the ordinary aluminium axles. So many things to talk about. We're just talking about power meters. When you're in a group, when you're rotating, what do you need to look at your power for? It's like, you've got to be smooth with the group rather than have your head down looking at your power going, oh, I've got to do 325 watts. That doesn't make sense, does it? So there's a time to look at your power meter to use it, and there's a time not to use it.
That's it, I'm trying to look at the maximum when it's here. Don't worry about the watts.
Arm warmers on the hoods because I run out of pocket space.